one of them, in my opinion.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Start the meeting. Have a quorum. Vote, will you pray for us, please?
Dear Lord, we just thank you for today. God, we ask that you would be with all the families impacted by the floods in South Texas. God, be with those families, give them comfort, be with the rescuers. God, that you would be with our board, be with our staff over the summer, that we would make the right decisions for our staff and for our students, and lead the district the way you want us to, God. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Anybody sign in for roll call? All right, ESSA application for Title I, 2, all 4 funds.
Okay, so to be able to get our ESSA grants approved for the school year, we have to be able to talk about the funding of the grant and what we use it for. So for Title I-A, our estimate for our title funds is $96,571. This fund is used to provide all children with significant opportunity to receive fair, equitable, and high-quality education. And here in the district, we use that money to pay for our reading interventionists and our library aide at the elementary school. Our Title II-A estimate this year is going to be about $21,140. If we get the funds, there was a little bit of a thing sent out by the federal government saying that there's a delay in the funds with how they're sending out federal funds. We won't know for sure until September 1st, but we still have to talk about the money. This is to help improve quality and effectiveness of teachers and principals, and this is where we pay for our contract with Region 16 to provide training for teachers, paraprofessionals, principals, etc. And then Title IV-A, this is also one of the funds that we receive that the government is possibly holding, and if we do get it, it's estimated to be $10,000. We use this is to improve academic achievement of students, and we use this to purchase educational software for elementary. IXL, eSpark, Reading A to Z, and Really Great Reading is the software that we use out of this. And so we just have to allow public comment on that and how we spend the money, if there is any, to get our funding.
There's no action on this one. No motion. So we'll close the public forum, move on to new business, the consent agenda. I had a chance to read through that. If there's any correction? If not, can I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes. Discuss MOU with Region 16 as a provider of Strong Foundations Implementation Grant.
Okay, so the Strong Foundations Implementation Grant was the grant that I applied for last year for $200,000 to help pay for our Bluebonnet learning materials for elementary school for math. And we were awarded the grant, and so we had to sign an MOU with some provider, and we signed it with Region 16 since they were close. $100,000 of the grant goes to Region 16 to provide the services needed to provide the support for the teachers, the training, all of that. The rest of the money goes towards salaries, supplies, travel, and anything else that we need to help make sure we implement the Bluebonnet learning materials to the utmost quality. So really, it was just to let you guys know that's what that was for.
Thanks for doing that. That was great. Okay, we'll move on to consider possible action to approve the 2025-2026 drug testing policy.
Okay, so we have updated the drug testing policy from several years back just to mimic or to be what we want currently to happen for drug testing and to align with our athletic policies. We're going to drug test students. We're going to do a 25% random drug testing for all students in grades 9 through 12 and 8th grade bands, since they are considered a high school course, UIL. We have set up the offenses, first offense, second offense, what's going to happen with those, and align those with our discipline matrix that we have as well. Our first offense is a 10-day suspension that starts the day the sport or activity starts. That way it captures, if we do drug tests now, but it captures a kid maybe who doesn't participate in the sport that happens right now. They'll start their offense, later. They have to complete a drug awareness program during that suspension, and they still will get to practice in the activities, but they just won't be able to participate for 10 days. They will be drug tested at every other drug testing opportunity that comes for the year. The second offense, they're suspended for a year. It can be reduced to a 30-day suspension as long as they commute 50 hours of community service. And the drug offenses are cumulative through their whole high school activities, so we have consequences that are going to carry out with them as well. But basically, that's the synopsis of the drug policy.
Just through high school from here.
It's just through high school, except for the 8th graders who are in band, since that is considered a high school UIL. Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, anybody have any questions? Not, can I have a motion?
Move to approve the 2025-2026 drug testing policy as presented.
Have a motion by Logan, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Chad, all in favor? Motion passed. Okay, going to consider possible action to approve the SFISD 2025-2026 athletic handbook.
So the handbook, took the handbook from last year. We made a few modifications to it to kind of be more, in my opinion, positive for our students, that our students, when mistakes are made or holding them accountable, that they have opportunities to learn but are still being able to participate in their sport, but the punishments occur. So on page 5, we updated the drug testing policy to mirror our school district drug testing policy that we just spoke about and approved. So the violation's the same, 10 days, the year, and then a lifetime suspension if there's a third offense. On page 6, the overall expectations, that title we updated, student athlete. They have 3 expectations: effort, attitude, attendance. When we talk about attendance, it goes for not only the athletic period, their film sessions, their practices. We're holding them accountable of being present because most of these students are in team sports. On page 7, participation in the athletic period. Once again, kind of talking about how our athletic period, we have an opportunity here to get 48 minutes a day extra training outside of the practice time. And we're going to hold kids accountable to being present at that. On page 8, we talk about the adjustments are the ability for our parents to be able to communicate with coaches, and our students having an advocacy for themselves. So they're going to talk with their position coach, their immediate supervisor within their program. We want the kids to learn how to be advocates for themselves before having the parents come and chat with us, because in my opinion, we're trying to treat them or train them to be young adults and be able to advocate in a job setting. If we get to the point where that situation hasn't occurred, then we would like the parents to step in and have conversations. So we've changed on how that policy works, communication with that. The lettering requirements on page 9, we updated that. So a player must be on varsity for 50% of the athletic year. They have to participate in 50% of the varsity sports and or be brought up for a playoff experience with a team that makes the playoffs. Those are options, and there's multiple different categories that a student can letter, but the big thing, my focus on athletics this year, is that being a varsity athlete and lettering should be an honor. It was when I was a kid, and I believe that's the way it should be, not everybody gets a letter. So we want our kids to earn it, and we want it to be special for those kids that do. Page 11, rule number 7, talked about any student placed in the district alternative DAP. It talked about complete suspension from sports for the whole entire year. I felt like that was a little overkill. That doesn't allow our kids to have the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. So they will be suspended based on state rule from practice and participation while being in a DAP, but they will have a makeup when they return back to their sport because, one, they need to be accountable to their teammates, two, they need to learn from their mistakes and move forward. So I felt suspending them for the year, we could lose that kid not only as a young adult, but as an athlete in our programs. And then page 14, once again, kind of went over the DAEP and everything I just said, what we listed out in their first placement, second placement, third placement, the consequences for that. And those are the big changes for this year's athletic handbook. But like I said, our focus is not only on training these kids to be young adults and advocate for themselves, but also be held accountable when they make mistakes. And
All right, thank you, Coach. Anybody have any questions about that? Concerns? If not, can I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the 2025-2026 SFISD athletic handbook as presented.
Motion by Doug, do I have a second? Second. Second by Josh, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we're going to discuss possible action on policy changes, FD local and FE on local.
Okay, so with the new legislature, we have to choose whether we're going to allow students who are homeschooled to participate in UIL academic and all UIL activities. So we have to decide whether or not we're going to opt in or opt out of those, and allowing them to participate. And those two policies are the language for that, to opt out, yes.
Like in the past, is that one kid participates, is that take a chance of us having to move on?
Yes. Yes, Coach Bennett double checked on that today, and he did say if they participate, then that affects our, yes.
Okay, anybody have any questions about that?
So on FM local, I've read it like 18 times.
Yes, I read that one as well.
I mean,
It's basically telling you if they're homeschooled, then you have to look back at the other policy to see how we.
Well, the other policy is clear, but
Yes.
this one I'm like, I was like,
Yeah, it's just basically referring you back to
Okay,
the other.
okay, good. I felt,
I read it multiple times.
I don't get it, okay.
Yes.
What is it? Is the state funded if they do, or are we
So
just
they-
like a
They do fund it, and I'll tell you how they fund it. So if they participate in any activity, like a UL, any activity, every activity you get $1,500. But you have to think about if they're in school, we get around $6,500.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and more, depending on some other things. So they would take a lot of activities to total just some of the basic allotments even, plus the other money we'll get.
Okay,
I think for a lot of homeschoolers, it's not gonna really matter if they're in school or not. Like, I don't think keeping them from doing activities is gonna sway a lot of them to go to school. We don't have a huge homeschool community in Virginia. I know we have some, but I don't know.
okay.
I think we should let them do it, but I think we should let them do it, but that's me. I don't think we're close enough to our getting bumped up that we're gonna have that many. Most of them are younger kids. We could have some high school kids that say, well, I want homeschool now, but I mean,
before, when we talked about it, for the ones that weren't on the board, and I don't remember if you were on it or not, but the problem I personally have with it is we hold our kids accountable in the classroom for the grades, how they act. The homeschool kids are just coming to do athletics. We have no control over any of that, so they can do whatever they want. We have no control over it. For our kids, we want them to.
I mean, we don't have control over the grades, but
Well-
we still have control over the way they act here.
But if they're not passing, they don't play. And if they're in homeschool, it's a different curriculum, it's everything different. That's kind of what we'd all talked about before. That's my,
Oh, here.
yeah, so that's what I have against it.
Is there any way to track that? I mean, I know that there are ways, but can we hold them accountable just like we do the other kids? You gotta provide grades, you gotta,
I mean, I've been a part of two different style of homeschool. So you have the homeschool where the parents teaching curriculum, and then there's the homeschool that the school kind of functions, that there's an online program, and we use some of the online programs here for credit recovery or just instruction in general. If they are on those curriculums, then we could track and validate from an academic
I mean, I
standpoint.
think we could ask even if the parents, 'cause I don't know if there's still a co-op in Border, there was, or a bunch of parents would get together and bring their kids in once a week or something. Different parents would teach different things. I mean, I don't think it would be too much of a stretch to be like, hey, we gotta see your grades for you to be able to, no pass, no play. Now, I know they can budget, but I know what happens in the next 6 weeks with the teachers.
Well, I know the rule, and I haven't looked at it in a while, but, you know, if you opt in and do it, and, you know, let's say if Morgan don't, then their kids, have the opportunity to come here because, without any
That is how it
repercussion.
is. If you
Yeah.
opt in, then any homeschool, it doesn't have to be from our town, they can come to the closest local school. So it wouldn't just be French kids that could come if we choose it. It would be.
Last time we talked about this, if you accepted one kid, whether it be band or whatever it was, you automatically went up a classification.
Yeah, I don't know. They haven't mentioned anything on how it's gonna work on that end that I've seen.
That was
so.
the whole reason last time. Because it would put us in, say, 3A for taking one kid, whether, like I said, whether it be band or whatever it be, if they just want to come through band. That's what I remember from the last conversation.
And how they would bump us up for one kid if we're 50 kids under.
That's what was talked about at the last board meeting when we did it. And that's what I remember from it.
The unfortunate thing is they haven't really put out enough guidance on it yet, and they aren't really gonna put out a lot of it until after we have to choose.
To me, they're doing this almost to go with the vouchers, in my opinion. I mean,
Can we table it until we can find out for sure, then bump you up a classification? Or does that have to be done today?
Yes, before September 1st.
Not saying I necessarily have a problem with it, I don't want to, make it worse than it already is either.
I guess my problem with it is, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I think we've got the best teachers in the Texas Panhandle at this district. And I don't necessarily want those kids to miss out, but I also want those kids to have the opportunity to get in front of our teachers and our staff and get the teaching that we're getting. Not saying that they're getting that at home. I guess my main deal is if you want to be a part of our athletic program, be a part of our community, is kind of where I stand.
I agree with that.
Will they be allowed to come in, do the athletic periods? If not, I mean, they're missing out on 50 minutes a day. They're only gonna get the after school time. I mean, and then the workout too, I mean, you might fall into, getting hurt, you know, just from like that athletic standpoint, not band or nothing like that, but.
I would say if they did want to participate, they gotta be it. You gotta be at everything. If you want to
Yeah,
participate in
that
athletics,
goes
you gotta
with
be in athletics 100%. You want to be in band, you gotta be in band 100%, not show up after school or when you feel like it, you know? We don't make that exception for the other kids, like, yeah, you want to go to lunch early?
And of course, it falls in also with the drug testing policy as well, right? I think that's something,
I would say so.
float them into that too.
What about insurance if one of them does get injured? They're not a school student, doesn't fall under school.
Liability.
Yeah.
No, that's not a good question, so.
Well, I'm trying to find the calendar on when they plan on sending out more information because they're focusing right now on the finance. Some of these things they've not even really planned on talking about more until through November, December.
Would it have a reverse effect as far as losing kids that are full-time students here that all of a sudden want to be homeschooled? And they can do that route and go to athletics. I mean, that's you don't know until you do it, right? I don't think that's a huge problem, but I don't think it would happen. But it's just a question.
In that bill, if we've been right, if they're taking certain kind of tests, then we have access to see that. If they're not, we don't know. School district shall accept assessment results and measure reports by third party.
Is this is a yearly thing, right? I just want to know the other for sure before.
So this year we have to submit it we have to vote on it before September 1st, and then after that, every year has to be done by August 1st.
I just want to know about the other for sure before. Personally.
And the insurance thing would be one to know about too. What happens if they get injured if they're not a full-time student here?
So insurance, grades,
And
and
classification.
classification.
Because I don't think it's fair at all to all the kids. If you come in and say you want to do band and then that bumps us up, say to 3A, that didn't do any favors here.
They do require the parent to provide written verification that they are receiving passing grades.
If they want to play, whatever. I don't know. I just feel like if they want to be in sports, they need to be in school. It's not good. So we want to table it?
Until we get some answers, I'll do this the right thing to do. So I'll make a motion to table this item to the next month's meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passed. Okay, on to the compensation.
Can we skip to the substitute pay first? That way, since they're in as part of that. All right, so Ms. Kirksey went and researched other school districts' substitute rates, and has that in there for you, so we can talk about that.
So I called the schools around, Groom, Claude, White Deer, Panhandle, Spearman, Gruber, and Amarillo, and I did get one from Borger. So on the spreadsheet, you can see what they pay, and Gruber makes their life really hard because they pay elementary subs different than what they pay a high school sub. They pay them different if they have a bachelor's degree, and then they pay them different if they have a bachelor's degree, but also certified as a teacher. So I just try to keep it simple, because sometimes I think you can get lost in all the hoo-ha. But Borgers, their non-certified sub pay is $72 per day, and a certified person gets $77 per day, which is basically what we're paying. Groom pays $90. I don't know if that has to do with their location, and maybe their pool is not as big. So that's maybe why they try to incentivize them more. Do what?
Is that a typo where it says per hour on Groom?
Oh, yes, sorry, it's per
I'm
day.
getting ready to quit my job.
So you can kind of see we're in the middle. I don't know that we can pay Amarillo wages, but I think we could maybe find a happy medium. I think personally for the secretaries that have to turn in the sub time and Jill that has to do with it, I think if we said this is how much you get paid for a full day, this is how much you get paid for half a day, as opposed to the hourly thing, because trying to keep track of their hours, I mean, so you hire somebody to sub for a coach, but they have 4 hours of athletics, they're not gonna go do that, but they may use them in another class. So I think if you just say, if you're here and you're here to work a full day, we're gonna have you scheduled for a full day, and just pay a day rate or half a day rate. Just my opinion.
I think that would help with getting the subs as well.
And I did check with Jill today, and the rates we pay right now are 11 for classroom computer sub, 10 for cafeteria, custodial, $13.50 if it's a long-term sub after 2 weeks, and $15.50 if it's a long-term sub certified sub after 2 weeks. We just don't have too many of those long-term subs.
Because they have to be in the same class for the
Same
same
class.
teacher.
Yes.
They can't cover for another teacher.
Yep.
I mean, because that can kind of affect their long-term.
So the rate that's presented, that's not an increased rate from, is it an increased rate?
In the
from years-
compensation
From
plan.
years past?
And the compensation plan?
No, the compensation plan is the same. That's why I wanted to discuss this, to see what we need to change, because
If we change this, then we need to.
we have to,
Change how we write it.
I like the half day, full day. And also, like I said, I know we haven't changed their compensation. Since I don't think that, but we may have a little, but to have quality subs is really important, I think. Have people you can count on and, price it up. Price anything up and down, yeah. And if we're giving increases, I know you can't think like a teacher, but you gotta make it worth their while, keep them around, keep them coming. I don't think there's second class or anything of that nature. I think they're important for what we do, and I think we have a lot of really good subs, so I'm going to continue to fight every year.
So right now, they're getting 11, which is the 77 a day. Are you want to go up from that?
I'm kind of a number guy, so yeah, I mean, if we're gonna do half day, full day, I don't know. So 11 half days, but I won't make it.
7 hours, 7 hours is what we do.
7 hours a full day?
that's what they would consider a full day, because they don't
They don't
get paid for the conference.
period of time.
So what if we did 90 full day? I'm just thinking 50 half days, something of that nature.
you know, any idea kind of what we run on a budget on the subs? Because I know another reason that Groom pays 90 is Groom has a lot of money. They got an apartment.
Yeah, $90 an hour.
Apartment.
A day, 90 a day.
Yeah, they got a lot of money.
Are you going to consider half-day being like 4 class periods? You know, at the high school, there's 5 in the morning and only 3 in the afternoon. So what are you going to consider half-day at that point?
I mean, we're comparable and above most every day.
How hard a time you have getting subs in here for a half day in the afternoon? On a limb. For $11 an hour,
Yeah.
so 33 versus 50. I mean, I'm just using that number, but I'd be more willing to come in.
How big of a deal would it be money-wise? I know you're getting hammered with questions, but if you just pay $77 a day, whether you subbed for 3 classes or a full day.
Yeah, they would choose half days for sure.
Should be covered every time, didn't it?
You think you would have people not take advantage of the full day?
Yes, absolutely. We do already.
Yeah.
They like the coaching jobs. You know,
Because
especially
they only
when we
have to
did
teach
the
2 or
half day,
3
full day,
classes.
they like the coaching jobs with the 2 periods versus the full day jobs, I think, because they didn't have to do anything else. We try to pull them, you know, for other things, but they will definitely go for those jobs over a full day job. If they know they get paid anyway. That was a struggle, for sure, when we had the half and full day pay.
I was trying to pull numbers, but I'm not exactly
You're
sure
fine.
what account is paid, used to pay subs.
I was just curious, you know, if we raise it, how big it, you know, gets.
$13 a day.
Yeah.
I mean, how many would be just so, yeah.
Like a day?
Yeah, say there's no
Gosh, it's just hard to tell. I mean, it depends on what's going on, but you could have 3 to 5 a day sometimes, depending on
Probably be the average of 3
3
per day.
probably.
Season is.
Yeah, yeah. I say six season, and it's way big. We can't cover them all.
Spring is
Yes, and then spring at high school, junior high, that's, we struggle with that. And it's not because we just don't have enough subs, period.
Or we hired a lot of them.
Yeah, well, we hire them.
What'd you say Borger was? Sorry.
72.
72 for non-certified and 77 for certified.
But they also have problems with those.
They also have what?
We've had people come sub here that used to sub in board.
I don't know, what do y'all think would be fair? It's a lot more, when I was 7, it was $45 a day, so I'm like, yeah.
Things didn't cost as much either.
Not quite, almost.
Could you add the
Y'all were in
periods
school.
for a full day, like 88 for a full day, and pay half day the same? That would incentivize.
Say it again?
So add the $11 for the conference period for the hour, where you don't
But
pay
you
them for
have to
it.
keep these.
That would
And
incentivize
This is
full
one of the
day
things
and
you
leave
don't,
the half
you know,
day
your
the
kids'
same.
hours.
Right, the full day.
There's advantages.
Yes, 100%.
Because it's how we need to advertise. On kids' schedule, if we take them to school.
And if you do the full day, half day rate, it's just,
Do 8844.
yeah, I mean, you just change it to 88.44 versus paying hourly.
Well, I didn't mean pay hourly, I mean just
Right.
add that
Yeah.
college period to it.
Or 45.90.
If you do half a day, is that understanding everything after lunch?
Well, it depends on what campus you're on. So elementary is easier because their lunches are fairly centered in, there's not the periods, but junior high and high school, like you said, it's 5 periods before lunch, 3 after, so a half day, they work more periods.
Teachers in high school typically take off half day, I mean, everything after lunch.
They try, yeah.
Because like when the coaches are gone, they have, like Jason,
So how much are they getting right now for half a day? Is it an hour? Because it's an hour. So is it 3.5 hours?
Well, right now it's easier because we pay them for what time they're there. We just have the period, so, yeah.
because my
So
college
it'd be
kids.
55.
So it, yeah.
We do want to incentivize for $75, you guys.
Yeah, 77 or 8.
Junior high.
88.44 works for me. Incentivize them to take the full day.
You can do 90.45 just to make it every time.
I'll lose my $2, it's fine.
Give me shoot for it next year. Give me something.
Look for next year, I'll get you $2.
It's $11. Is that what we agree on?
Whatever the majority wants, I don't know. They're getting a little raise, that's all that matters.
88.44? Okay, so the motion will need to be presented as pay scale as changes amended. So can I have a motion?
I move to approve the SFISD substitute pay scale as amended.
I have a motion by Doug, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passed. All right, now we'll talk about the compensation.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be hard. Yeah, it's supposed to be hard.
All right, so bringing back the compensation plan that we had last time. One thing we wanted to point out as well on the compensation plan that we didn't bring up last time was that we changed the district contribution for insurance to $325 a month from the $300 that we have currently. And TEA has not provided any additional guidance as far as how districts should. I watched the commissioner's call last Thursday, and he says there is money, but you guys get to decide how to do it. And so we have to approve this so Ms. Kirksey can do our budget and all of the things.
And I don't know if we talked to y'all last time about how we implemented the 4,000, 8,000. The way the state said to do it was to take step 2, add the 4,000 to that. That's your new, or not, yeah, that's your new step 3. But we didn't do it that way. We just increased our step 3, the 4,000. So they get that step plus the 4,000. So they are getting the full 4,000, because I know that was a concern with some of the staff, that they weren't going to get the full 4,000 because the way they had understood it was how it was explained. How the state told us to do it was to take step 2, add the 4,000 to that, and that's your new step 3. but Mr. Garrison and Kim, they talked and they felt it would be better just to do the 4,000 on step 3, step 4, and then step 5 up, you add the 8,000. So that way they are getting their step plus the allotment.
And really, that falls in line with all the other school districts that I've talked to and that I've seen on Facebook and that type of thing is they're, just adding that 4 or 8 on top of it like, we recommended, so that way they are getting that money, so.
I think that's the best choice to help retain teachers.
Right,
You know.
Huh?
Did we make any changes to the stipends?
With the stipend, we did not make any changes. We did that plan already.
Yeah, what was that, in April or whatever?
We just kept that because we felt like that was good.
And so on the teachers, we're talking about just the 4 and the 8, and then talking about increasing at will and salary, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if everybody else on the board has seen all the Facebook posts from all the other ISDs that are, they're increasing all their salaries. It's weird though, it's about 4 and 8. But it makes it sound like the board is doing it.
It's the state.
Instead of the state.
Yeah.
So I sent it to Kim thinking maybe we needed to, it would look good if we're giving them $8,000.
Right.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Looks like we're just handing out that money.
So, on the, okay, I'm getting ready to muddy the water here. On that will. So, did we or did we not last year when we gave the raises for at will and salary? I thought we had separated them because it's a total different, a 3% for a salary versus a 3% for an at will. It's a huge difference. Sounds good because you're using the same number, but it was a numerically, 90, or actually, here's my 90 again, 90 versus 45,000. That 3% is a big difference.
And you can do them separate.
Okay, and I thought we did last year.
Mhm.
Yes.
Didn't
We did.
Okay.
So what did we do last year?
You did a 4% raise
For all?
for at will.
Okay, well, and then what do we do for?
We increased
2 or
250.
3.
I think we increased the step like 250, I believe,
Well, on salary.
Salary.
on the salary, yes.
Was it 3%?
I thought it was 4. I
It
thought
was
they did
4.
4 on both.
It was 4 on at will
Oh, okay.
and
We
admin.
did 500 for teachers,
Yeah, they're 500.
and then we did 4%
Oh.
for
We're
all.
separated?
No, we didn't last year. Now, you can, we have in the past.
We have.
I mean, we just didn't last year. I don't know what y'all are thinking, but.
We appreciate it.
That's what I said too, if I was sitting out there. Just remember it like you want to.
We do that every year. I thought we talked about 3 for salary and 4 for at will last
It
year.
was something like that.
I thought it was, so it would have been comparable, but
I didn't, but he's out in the audience. So he-
He's fine with what he did for everybody since he was up there. Yeah, I was thinking of something like that. I mean, we got really good staff all the way across the district. Our at will has really picked up too. Really don't want to lose any. Nor do I want to lose anybody's salary. Don't get me wrong.
total salary wise we have. I know all administrators. It's losing six on. How many salary positions?
And just to make sure, sorry, go ahead. Just to make sure on that 4 and that 8.
Counting 9, what are you counting?
They're definitely sending that money, right?
I'm sorry.
The 4 and the 8 for the teachers?
Yes.
That's
I'm
a
counting
good
9.
number.
I'll count it.
It's all based
I got
on
mine.
the Peens, how they're coded in Peens.
I don't wanna like do this and then.
You got, 2 elementary principals, 2 high school, or, you know, 2 high school,
Oh,
junior,
Bennett.
a
I
junior
didn't
high,
count
Bennett.
Sorry,
I
Bennett.
mean,
He was number 10.
Oh, count yourself over there, pushing for 4.
I counted, I just forgot. Yeah, 10.
How many of those we
Oh, gosh.
100 probably, or close to it.
That's much. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we're not, I mean, we got 150 employees total, so, well, probably not that much then, so we're probably saying,
Well, it's probably a little less, but it's quite a bit.
I mean, it's, you know,
There's
yeah,
probably
it's
50.
Yeah, because you got custodial, cafeteria, maintenance.
Aides.
Aides.
But you took what they made this year and added it just for the anticipated, right, on the schedule? So
Yeah, in my
that's kind of what it'll
spreadsheet, I
cost
have
us.
what it was last year, and then I just put in a raise of 1% and then took the difference for all of them.
So it just depends on how much we want to spend.
Mm-hmm.
She broke it down for us.
She gets, like a teacher, yes. Counselors get paid, and teachers get.
which is not $30,000.
We did 3% again on salary and 4 on at will, that's what, about 107,000.
Yeah, you won't pay it, but that's the same.
107 gonna hurt? It
I
always
think 4, I
hurts.
think
It
4
always hurts, but,
3 for salary.
I mean, not on teachers, it doesn't hurt, but it always
No.
hurts.
I mean, we're up with our ADAs a little bit, and they've adjusted the allotment a little bit. So hopefully that will help, but.
We can pull that out, it's
Yeah.
even that wills, I mean, I know that's kind of a rip off the door sometimes.
It was better last year, but yeah. Always helps to pay more.
Four and 3.
You're good with that? 4% at will and 3 salary.
Okay. That'll be a change in that.
Yes.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 2025-2026 SFISD compensation plan as.
I have a motion by Doug, do I have a second? Second. Second by Logan, all in favor? Motion passed. District reports.
Cell phone.
Oh,
Oh,
No, you're
there's
good.
there's-
Yep. This is a fun one. So the legislature has mandated that we come up with a cell phone policy per the requirements of House Bill 1481. The choices are that they either must be stored, turned off, or banned completely from the district. And so I did a survey with our administrators and parents. The administrators all basically agreed that option 2 that I gave them, which would be to have them in the backpacks turned off, would be the best choice in their opinions. The survey results from parents, students, or whoever chose to answer are in the graph, and the comments are in another chart. Most agree that they want the cell phones available in the backpack or purse, turned off. That was 67.6%. Of course, there was some sort of variations of all of that, but it does include Apple Watches, it includes tablets, anything that can be they communicate back and forth. School devices don't count. They could still have Chromebooks. They can't use their own personal devices. That's against state law for them to use their own devices on campus. But anything that they can communicate back and forth. So not only do we have to come up with a policy on how we're going to store them, we also have to come up with consequences on what's going to happen if they are caught with their cell phones out. And it's just even if they're out, period. It doesn't matter if they're using them or not. If they pulled it out of their backpack and we see it, we have to follow the consequences per state law. The only exceptions is if a student has an IEP plan or a 504 that necessitates them to have their cell phone for a safety or a health risk, and we do have some of those in the district that are documented from physicians. They're done legally through the IEP 504 process, so it can't just be somebody now all of a sudden has a medical need. I mean, if they have the documents and we go through the process, that would be one thing, but we do have some students have that, that need right now. But teachers are aware and they know those students who need that. I put in some model policies as well from some other school districts who had this already in their place in their consequences, and I like a couple of the consequences from both of these policies that I put in. I think we could come up with something really nice as a district policy. TEA is not putting out their model policy until August, so that's how it works. So I think we can come up, if you guys decide how you want it to be handled, I can come up with some, and talk a little bit about consequences. I can come up with a policy and have that ready for next time that we meet to have the official.
I don't mind Keller's other than the Saturday school.
That was one of my thoughts too. I don't like the Saturday school. I also I don't think the consequences need to be different for different grade levels. I think consistency to me is better to have consistent consequences no matter what grade level you're at. We don't really have an issue with cell phones at elementary school anyway. Maybe fifth graders might have had cell phones, but the teachers at elementary school, they would put them in their baskets on their desk, and they don't really seem to be as quite addicted to them as the older kiddos, needing them transferring classes. And so the biggest concern I see in the comments, is parents want the kids to have cell phones for if there's an emergency. And if there was a tragic incident happening, we're gonna, kids are gonna get to do what they need to do. But, if students need to communicate with parents, they can go to the office and they can call in the office, or parents can call the office and leave a message, and we will transfer messages to students, and let them know what the parents need them to do. We need to have that where we're learning and not worried about our cell phones in class. And also, one of the comments as well was, what about teachers and substitutes on phones? And we want to make sure we're ensuring teachers are not on their phones either. They need to have their cell phones put up while they're instructing, and if they're on their conference period, they can pull that cell phone out because they're not instructing students. But teachers all have phones in their classrooms now, on their desk, as part of our safety features, and so they can call the office, they can, you know, if they needed to make a call for an emergency, they have that ability. So we want to have, you know, teachers following along with that as well.
So you're saying the consequences, you really see it across the board?
Yeah, I think for students, the consequences need to be across the board the same, no matter what grade level, in my opinion. Cell phone's a cell phone, a violation's a violation.
So there'll be, because I have heard, you know, some of the teachers use them as babysitters a little bit sometimes when the people are done. You know, if you're done with your work.
They
you can
cannot
play
do
with your
that.
phone. So there's no cell phones.
No cell phones, period. From bell to bell, morning to end, there cannot have any cell phones out, period. State law.
And the teachers, I mean, are we gonna, you know,
Well, what we'll do is if we walk into a classroom and a teacher is letting students use phones, we'll have to do it as administrators, we'll have to take our action, you know, whatever step that may be, and actually we'll have to deal with that as well.
The recommendation is y'all deal with it daily. I'm scorched earth on it, I let them have it. I was told.
And there's options, there's a lot of companies out there selling lock bags and things like that, you can put them in. They're $25 to $30 a lock bag, those yonder pouches, I mean, they have boxes where you can lock them up, but, you know, in classrooms, but in my opinion, and I think teachers may or may not agree with this, but every time we lock a cell phone in and out of a box and then we take it to another classroom, that's just handling a device that gives a kid an opportunity to just,
End up like the calculator.
yes. And so I think if they just stay in their backpacks and they don't pull them out in the day, they're there, but it's the temptation of having it in their hand, you know, it's not as great.
you're wasting time.
Yeah, you waste time when you have to lock cell phones up every period, and,
Can they use them at lunch or at recess?
well, if they're not on campus,
Okay,
you know, we won't.
but the junior high out at recess cannot have them either? Okay. That'll be the question. No BS.
It says from start to finish of the school day, they have to be locked up.
But if the high school students leave, they're not on campus, they're in their cars, they can
Right.
use phones.
I don't know what Tuesday school is.
Just got off Tuesdays.
Yeah, maybe it might be like an after-school type thing. Mm-hmm. It was Keller, I think it had a Tuesday and Saturday school. Oh, is it Wiley? Okay.
And Saturday school.
Maybe that's it.
Okay.
I mean, I think at some point, you know, when you're doing first offense, second, third, and then you're like putting them in ISS and you're doing, I mean, how about just, they can't bring?
Well,
I mean, if you know, if you've been caught one or two, you know, maybe on the third time, you're not allowed to bring them on the campus, period. I don't care what your parents is. Because, I mean, I don't see sticking a kid in ISS.
You'll have parents agree with,
Yeah.
that will probably deter them from getting it out. They're gonna sneak it in, they're not supposed to have it. At least put away since we got it, put it all.
And I mean, so far, unless I've skipped over it, because I've just kind of skimmed them, I don't see that that's an option, is where you're just not allowed to bring it, because you can't be responsible to not get it out. But that's,
Well, the problem is how do you search them? You can't legally search them.
well, I'm just saying if you can't, I mean, surely, like he said, if you're not allowed to bring it and you sign something that says, no, I'm not bringing it,
We
then
just
you
need
don't
full
get it
cell
out.
phone cameras.
There you go.
There you go.
I think that elementary school on Keller's would be a good start.
Elementary Keller.
Yeah, for us, pretty much have some.
Because then the Saturday school, the teachers are getting punished. Somebody's gotta be here for that.
They get paid. And then and a lot will volunteer, you know, for extra time.
Get some OT. Overtime?
Well, it just depends on how many hours you have to do. When I used to work summer school in Boulder, we would do half days, and they would be assigned however many days they needed to. They also had to have work, and the teachers turned work into that person, and we made them do their work, and if they didn't, we were in the library, and we got a book, and they had to research it, and type up a paper for me. I mean, we kept them busy.
Well, and I know in the past too, when we had the, back in the day when we had cell phones and we took them up and we charged and all of that stuff, the second offense, we made parents have to come get them.
I saw that.
Mhm.
I mean, that's it. They don't need it to the parents.
Yeah.
Like the first time the student can pick it up, but then after that it has to be picked up by, that,
If I had to go to school to pick up my kid's phone,
Sometimes that was helpful when parents had to be inconvenienced a little bit
Yeah.
because then they were like, I'm not gonna let you have it, or, that kind of helped a little bit with the students not getting it out.
I say we do the fourth offense as the first offense. Messed it up day one.
I'm gonna
I like Wiley's except
kind
for
of tell
the.
my age with this discussion we was having about finishing work and not having anything to do. Used to go beat chocolate with racers on the sidewalk, and clean it. That was what we did.
Draw mom down on the party line.
Yeah. Yeah, we had, we did.
You said you like Wiley's, what?
I mean, I like theirs, just not the Saturday and Tuesday, but like you said, must be picked up.
Mhm.
Is there a lunch detention option? They don't like giving up
The
lunch?
second offense on Wiley's is a lunch detention.
Yeah, and it must be picked up by parents.
Yeah, I do like that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, Wiley's they don't have ISS, it just depends on how strict y'all want to be on it. Well, they do on the 5th, then beyond.
I personally think ISS needs to be later. I mean, we
Yeah.
want kids in class
Mhm.
as much as possible. Maybe if we get to that point, if parents have already picked up and we're still having issues, maybe ISS, but I don't know. Y'all kind of tell me which direction you want me to.
I think ISS is more for, I don't know. I mean, we're all being put like this because by the state, we have to do this.
Right.
So we haven't made it a big deal before. I just think ISS is more about big deals.
I was bringing it up this year.
Why do-
But
There you go, the state did it for you.
I like the four Keller, but then I do like the consultations. ISS is a later option.
So we can take the Wiley one and where would ISS start third offense? Where they start with their Tuesday school, start ISS offenses there?
I think we can.
Yeah, third time we get ISF. On a Tuesday school.
Yeah,
Can I offer
I don't
my
have to-
opinion? Some students like ISS.
yeah.
They would rather not be in class learning every day. I mean, I'm just giving that option. They may resist more an after school or a lunch or a Saturday school detention before they would ISS. I mean, they don't mind missing classes, some of them. Not all, just some.
It's already on the Keller one. And third offenses.
ISS.
Yeah, on the, for the elementary. You go on
But I
the
do like it there. Yeah, that's not on that one.
Okay, so let me look at it. So we could do the Keller, the elementary one, and add parent pickup instead of, we do that on the second, starting second offense, parent pickup
Yeah.
from then on.
Don't get tired of it.
Parent pickup and lunch detention for the second.
Okay. And then ISS for the third, yeah.
Don't forget ISS, that's non-medical loss exemption.
The second, or, yeah, the second one's lunch detention, so we do the. Whatever you put together, it would be wonderful.
Or like, second offense, you get that day of lunch detention or whatever. Third offense, you got 5 days of lunch detention.
Third's one day, something like
Fourth and after, or fifth and after, so you want it before the.
I don't see, I think schools are better with lunch.
10, 11 was my first year.
Third offense, ISS or lunch detention, more lunch detention.
Like you just all three times.
So 1 day of ISS or one? One, okay. Yeah. Right. And so if we are gonna put in a confiscation of phone, then we have to come up with like, hold on, we're holding it back, okay, never mind, this one says, we're gonna change this though, the parent picks up, right? Okay, parent picks up, okay. Yes,
Yeah, starting at 2, because every.
yes,
And of course, like on Wiley's, you gotta have your disclaimer, where it's not our fault.
right.
So if the school takes it up,
You need a place to
is
lock
the
it.
school required to, is just keeping it in the office considered keeping it secure? Or is there something in there that we have to do something else?
No, it just says we just have to confiscate it. Usually we can, usually we just put it in the principal's office, lock it up in there.
I didn't know that any phones would let you get into it without a Face ID or a code now, right? As far as the cybersecurity was up here getting that, but
No, just
we were taking it to something.
like we just, if we took it and sit on the desk.
Well,
And it disappeared.
Yeah, well,
That's why there's that disclaimer there.
yeah, and they typically just set it in their desk, and if for some reason the parent didn't pick it up that day, we would lock in the safe or something. We'll ensure their phones are safe.
I'm just trying to reduce bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody's kid got damaged. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something the state requiring us to do some kind
No,
of security measure that we're gonna have to spend
Never
more money on. But I don't like the sleeves, we get it from the bill and walking on that.
yeah, because it is an unfunded mandate for sure. We like to get those.
I would say you route it up with the parts that we like, because I don't want to enforce it, and we'll look at it.
Okay, yeah. So I'll write it up and have it for the next meeting, and then you can look at it then.
All right.
Okay,
Sounds good.
all right.
Okay. We'll move to district reports, Kersey.
You can tell we're getting to the end of the year because the numbers are getting higher. We should be at 83%. Overall, we're at 80% for our expenditures. We're down to 3 categories now that are kind of hitting over, and we're watching those, making sure we get the amendments like we need to for next month. And then next month, we will have the budget. Lots of prayers, lots of prayers.
Anybody have any questions? That's in August?
Yes.
Yeah, we got to turn around in September.
I'll pray for you if you pray for me, because I want to throw up every day.
Okay, anybody need anything from the curriculum director,
No, she didn't come in.
director of operations?
Yes, sir. I put some pictures in my report of some of the things, the bond we've completed there. And then Kendra here, she has some videos of the inside of the elementary. If you want to go ahead and play those for us, please, man. It's coming along, it's looking good, doesn't even look like the same building already, so I mean,
Sorry, Jerry, I got you in there a little bit.
and they've already, there's another video, they've already started on some classrooms as well, and so.
That's looking down the second, third grade hallway.
Yeah, there's starts after basketball.
One of the classrooms.
And then like on my report, I added some pictures of, you know, they got the asphalt down at the football field and it looks really good. The Champs here, you know, it's gone other than piles of rubble. And so, and then, what was the other? Playground's coming along. There's some pictures of it. I don't know why I put them in sideways, but. And then the fence, they're working on the fence. They were supposed to pour the footing today, so.
When are they supposed to be done at the elementary, they said?
The, which part? All of it, or, around Christmas, I think, is what the, because they're doing it, they were doing the corridors first, and then they'll work on a wing.
The playground, sorry.
Oh, the playground, it'll be done, well, it was gonna be done, no doubt, before school started. We've had a couple mishaps along the way, and so they still think they can have it done, it's just gonna be close, so. We had a pipe break and flood the deal, and
Lots of rain.
yeah, rain's not helped us there, and so, but, you know, they still think that they can get it done, depending on what the weather does, but which I think it's fixing to dry up some and be hot, it seems like, so.
We were gonna get Terry out there, bro, once we were done with all that. Weren't we?
So,
Weren't we gonna get Terry out there when we were done with all that?
yeah, I mean, we talked about doing that, yes, sir.
Okay.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention in my report is I've contacted close to 10 companies now to come in and give us bids on our high school auditorium to put in new curtains, update the lighting, and new sound system. Sound system wasn't an issue. I mean, we could find that, but the others, I'm telling you, is nearly impossible to get somebody here in the Panhandle. So I reached out to some of my superintendent friends, and I got a name of a guy, but he's yet to call me back. But I did, so I reached out to Richard Constancio, our architect, and he does have a company. And so my recommendation, he said we could add it to the updates that we're doing to the gym when they propose that to us. We could add that, them coming in, replacing this Texas Scenic is the name of the company. He said they like to work under a contractor because the contractors will carry all the insurance and that type of deal. They really don't like to work directly. He said they might if I called them, but Richard was said that, you know, that he didn't mind adding it to that, and we can just move forward there, and then they'll present it when they present the high school stuff, and if we don't like it, then we can just take it out and not do it there. So my recommendation would be, let's see what they'll do for us, because I'm having trouble finding anybody. I talked to a guy, he called me back, and he's like, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. I measured it, and he goes, Santa Fe's not that far from me. And I knew the guy was in Houston, and I was like, hold on a minute, and I said, I think you're wrong there. I said, we're at Sanford Fritch. And he was like, oh, well, he said, I'll charge you per diem, travel, all that, just to come up and look at it. And I said, well, we'll hold off on that for now. So, but Richard said he's worked with this company before, they're good, so my recommendation would be, let's just lump it in with that other stuff we're doing over there anyway, and get a bid.
So if you've seen the curtains, they're terrible.
And so when will they start that?
They tried to clean it, and so you've got that line where they're half clean. and
Probably after the winter and all that stuff.
And they also, if we don't even.
We're getting the floor
Get them
done.
fully
They're
clean, they
supposed-
still need to have
they're
new fire
supposed to have
retardant
done
on
that
them
2 weeks
anyway.
ago, But
which
they probably.
Trying to find a
next
company to
week
come
to
fire
fix it.
retardant curtains is gonna be expensive, if we can even find one, we did that. They need new fire retardant anyway.
Yes.
So,
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Searles?
alrighty, so I didn't really have much to say, on my part, other than, first off, I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Garrison, just for everything he's done for the district, and help, he's helped guide me, and he's gonna be around still, helping us in the district, so I just wanna thank him for all he's done. I want to let you guys know, so I've submitted the district for a competition through T-Mobile, Friday Night Lights. T-Mobile, Dumas did it last year, and they won some things to help with their stadium, and so I've submitted us. The actual campaign starts July 17th, and I have to write up a little bit of an essay, send pictures, videos in to them, and it's going to be like a big social media campaign where we can possibly get some things to help our school win some money. Every school that enters has a chance to win up to $5,000 every Friday, and then there's 25 to 30,000 for, they say, big projects, and then they didn't even really disclose on the video today that there's a big project. So when I talked to Coach Bennett, originally we talked about, if we get this $25,000 to $30,000, using it as a way to update our press box. That's where I feel like the money, it has to go to something to deal with football. If we got more, our scoreboard is, pretty weak. If we got more, we've got big wishes that we can look at, see what all we could do with that. But my vision is press box updates, because it's old and it needs a lot of new stuff, and from what we've looked at, Rex could, the maintenance guys could fix it pretty nice around that. So what I'll do is I'm going to ask the public in the next several days to send in pictures. I'm going to get somebody, Tom Drake does good pictures, Kate Carr's going to help me with some stadium football pictures, the drones, and get public. We need pictures of crowds, bands, cheerleaders, football players. We need a lot of pictures that we can put together to submit, and then we need the public to really be a big part of this as well, to start sharing out the social media campaign once T-Mobile starts it. I'll start pushing it out on the Facebook, and then I created Instagram today for Sanford Fritch as well. That's what they've asked for, is an Instagram account. We'll push some things out on that as well, and hopefully we can, help not only get some money for our school, but increase school spirit, and we've got a lot of good things going on, and we want to just really, try to pump that up.
Try to get Jason to dance on TikTok.
Maybe he will, I don't know. Yeah, and they do, they want to encourage fans to make TikToks, Instagrams, all the social media things. They want kids to do those kind of things and help promote Eagle Pride and We Bleed Blue and all the things we say. So really, that's about the biggest thing we want to talk about.
You gonna do on federal impact?
Nope. That is,
Federal impact?
no, I think it's right that still.
No, I really think, I don't know, I don't know that we don't need to try to find somebody to represent. I've reached out to some law firms, and the one that Purdue Brandon that's done some stuff, like they did our property tax stuff, they don't do anything federal, and so they only do state level stuff. So I don't know that we're not at that level to where we try to find somebody to represent us to try to, because we're not getting the information. We put a public information request in, and they're not fulfilling it. So we just need to look at the steps going there and cost versus what we, might get. And so
My concern about some of that is the lack of federal funding that they've already pulled back our Title II, Title IV funds, possibly. We're getting Title I, which is our special ed, but it's down about, close to $10,000 this year. so that money is,
Late to the party.
yes. But we can look to see what it would cost to get it correctly done, for sure.
Okay, any other questions? We'll set the next month's board meeting date.
And we have to set one early because we have to propose our budget. And then we have to let it sit, and then we have to approve it.
We have to post it.
Have to
for
post
10
it,
days.
paper, and all of that stuff.
When are you thinking you can do it in person? Because I always wanted it early and Richard didn't care for that. He always,
Last year, we did it August 7th. We proposed it, and then
So it would be August 6th.
and then we approved it like the 28th or something, the last week.
We will be.
We are meeting with the tax people Monday,
Mhm.
so we'll know that.
And then I'll schedule a meeting with Carrie around the 4th, so, because I have to go over there and do something.
We are still learning all of this.
But yes, if y'all say the 6th, it'll be here.
Everybody go to that August 6th? Call us into closed session to discuss personnel or hear complaints against certain personnel, public officer, Texas Government Code 551.071, personnel deliberation regarding professional contracts for classroom teachers. Policy and act. 7:30.
What?
7:30.
John,
Yeah, they just can't do it together.
I got your hair already.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call us out at 7:35.
Well, life's already in bed, so
Do I have another recommendation?
we're working on
I recommend to approve Amy Rupert for a probationary contract for certified classroom teacher for the 25-26 school year, subject to salary and assignment.
A recommendation, do I have a motion?
I make the motion to approve Amy Rupert for probationary contract for certified classroom teacher for the 2025-2026 school year, subject to salary.
because I got running.
Motion by Chad, do I have a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor?
I just didn't want to.
Motion passed.
Second.
To adjourn, have a second. All in favor?